Diddy's lawyers are requesting a mistrial again for the second time, and this all focuses around Brianna Bongolan's testimony. Let's get into this in more detail and look at the letter that was sent to the judge by Diddy's lawyers. The defence's renewed motion for mistrial is based on prosecutorial misconduct. They state that in this trial, the government has presented testimony that it knew or should have known was materially false related to its allegation that Mr. Combs dangled Brianna Bongolan from the balcony of Cassie Ventura's apartment in September 2016. Accordingly, they state, to avoid an unfair conviction in this case, the court should grant a mistrial. Continuing on, they state the government contends the alleged balcony incident is relevant because it shows Mr. Combs' violence directed not only to Miss Ventura, but to other people around Miss Ventura. She is aware of this violence, and because of her awareness, it goes to coercion. The incident, as alleged, is disturbing and powerful evidence, and the government has used it to depict Mr. Combs in an extremely negative light as an angry and dangerous man who terrified Miss Ventura and her friends. The prosecutors elicited evidence about this allegation from both Miss Ventura and Miss Bongolan that is demonstrably false in key respects. They then doubled down, using this false testimony to obtain a ruling and inadmissible hearsay evidence about it, as well, all to present a false narrative to the jury. Then they go into more detail about this testimony. The government started by eliciting testimony from Miss Ventura about the allegation that cannot be true. Miss Ventura said she actually saw Mr. Combs holding Miss Bongolan over the balcony railings. Quote, I saw him bring her back over the railing of the balcony and then throw her onto the patio furniture. Yet the prosecutors knew she had not actually seen what she described because they had in their possession a text conversation demonstrating that Miss Ventura was told about the alleged incident by another unidentified person. Hey, I just found out some crazy S. I'm just finding out right now. Nonetheless, they allowed Miss Ventura to continue to insist on cross that she had witnessed this incident. Question, and you testified that you saw him throw her onto the patio furniture, right? A. Answer, yep. He brought her back over the balcony and he threw her down. She persisted in this story even after she was confronted by the text messages. Question, isn't it true that you learned about this incident on the balcony after the fact? Answer, I saw what I saw, so I don't know. Question, has the government in your preparation for your testimony in this case gone over this message with you? Answer, not this one, no. They continue, the government left the jury with the false impression that Miss Ventura saw Mr. Combs dangle her friend over the balcony and that this made her fearful of him when in fact, if there was any incident, Ventura merely heard about it afterwards, considerably lessening any probative value as to her state of mind. Next, the government doubled down by presenting perjured testimony from Bongolan intended to corroborate Ventura's false testimony. Bongolan claimed that Combs lifted her up and held her feet onto the balcony railing and that this caused injuries to the back of my leg and back and neck pain. Bongolan was very definitive about these injuries and particularly the bruise to her leg, which was one of the details that sticks out in her mind. And then they revisited some questions that they asked Bongolan. What did you do at your apartment? I was shaking a lot and then I went to take a shower because I felt disgusted. I look over behind my leg and I see a huge bruise. Do you remember all the details of the incident that night? No. The details that you've talked about stick out in your mind? Yes. What, if any, physical injuries do you have as a result of that night? A big bruise with it was like a piercing in the middle of it, then I had back and neck pain. Diddy's attorneys continue, stating that the government next introduced photographs of the injuries Miss Bongolan supposedly sustained at the hands of Mr. Combs. A photo depicting the leg injury taken on September 26, 2016 at 9:45 a.m. Miss Bongolan testified that she took the photos of her leg injury around the time indicated in the exhibit and that she did so the same day as the incident, and that she got the injury from being thrown onto the balcony furniture. On cross, she confirmed that the balcony incident happened early in the morning, that the photo of the leg bruise was taken later that day, and that the injuries to her back and her leg happened on the same day. The government then introduced photographs of the injury supposedly sustained at the hands of Mr. Combs during the incident. The government knew or should have known this testimony was perjured, and that Miss Bongolan could not possibly have been injured by Mr. Combs on a Los Angeles balcony in the early morning hours of September 26th or even the day before that. The government has long known that Mr. Combs was on the East Coast in late September and specifically at around the time of this alleged incident. The government knew that he had stayed at Trump Hotel in New York City between September 24th to 29th, 2016. In fact, the government had marked as an exhibit the records of this hotel stay, which are now in evidence, and it has had other evidence in its possession for some time, showing Mr. Combs' travel schedule and proving that he was on the East Coast when it told the jury he dangled Miss Bongolan over a balcony in front of Miss Ventura. What's more, when the defence began to expose the perjury on cross-examination, the government repeatedly attempted to disrupt the cross with unfounded objections and requests for sidebars and unfounded claims, such as that proper leading questions meant defence counsel was testifying. Then, despite having elicited Ventura's false testimony about having directly witnessed the alleged incident, the government persuaded the court to admit the hearsay text messages with Karam describing what Ventura had found out from someone else, despite having elicited perjurous testimony from Ventura, claiming she saw the alleged conduct. All of this was highly improper and exacerbated the harm caused by suborning the perjured testimony. Diddy's defense attorney then go on to reference the other time that they moved for a mistrial based on what they call the improper line of questioning related to the 2012 destruction of fingerprints provided by Scott Muscudi, Kid Cudi, to the LAPD. Now, this attempt at a mistrial was refused by the judge. Let me know, as always, what you think in the comments below. His attorneys have moved for another mistrial based on, as I said, Brianna Bongolan's testimony and Cassie's testimony regarding the alleged balcony incident also. Let me know what you think in the comments below.